Hi, I'm Shoshana Shea, and I have a question for you. Do you enjoy reading? I hope so, because I have a book that I'd like you to read. Actually, I have a few books that I'd like you to read, and perhaps I'll start sharing some of them in a book section on my channel. Let me know what you think about that. In the meantime, this book behind me, Healing Your Life Through Activity, is a book that I wrote because it has a message to share, and I'd really like that you hear that message. And so I recommend that you purchase the book, because the book tells the story in a way that's not as easy to tell in a very short few-minute video. That's the reason that I wrote the book, and I'd like to share with you two short stories that I hope will explain the reason why everybody really needs to read the book, especially if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, if you're a lawyer, if you're a medical secretary. There are a number of others who need to read the book also, but that's a good start, a really good start. So here are the few stories. There are many, many more stories of this kind, unfortunately, that I could share. And as I start to share the story, I hope you will understand why I say unfortunately, and why my solution is the book that I wrote. I'm moving on to writing other books that I hope will help to do their job in terms of solving a problem which is a global problem, and that is the fact that there isn't sufficient understanding and awareness of the profession of occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is a great and amazing profession, but it's only great to a limited degree. There's a lot that can be learnt and enjoyed from reading a book. Watching a video is really super also. But when you're needing direct occupational therapy intervention, and there's a barrier in place because the person who needs the intervention needs a referral from the doctor or from might be a teacher if it's in the education setting. The first story I'll share is a situation that's happened to me on more than one occasion in my own life, where I myself have needed occupational therapy. And unfortunately, I wasn't referred to occupational therapy because the doctor disagreed with me, or the system in place disagreed with me that I needed occupational therapy. And it didn't matter how much I tried to explain to them, I really understand that I needed occupational therapy. Why? Because I'm an occupational therapist. I graduated in 1990, which is some 32 years ago, and moving on. I was working actively in the profession and quite innovative in the profession, so I really understood that I needed occupational therapy. In one of those situations, I did finally manage to get a referral from the doctor after quite an argument, and that was after my book was out, and I'd explained to the doctor that I'm a qualified, experienced occupational therapist. I've written a book on the profession to explain the profession, and it took a lot of persuading for him to agree to allow me to have a referral. And then once I made the phone call to the occupational therapy department concerned in the city where I'm living, in Jerusalem, the secretary disagreed, and she would not allow me to book an appointment for the OT. So I had to turn to using the skills that I have to rehabilitate myself. And although I obtained a pretty good outcome, there's a limit to certain things that you can do for yourself. There's a time that it's necessary to go to another professional for assistance. I mean, after all, if you think about it, if a dentist needs a filling, he can't really do it on himself. He needs to go to another dentist. And the Torah really says that if somebody's in prison, you need somebody else to let you out. So the same is if you're needing occupational therapy, even if you're a therapist, an occupational therapist, and you can do the rehab yourself, there are certain times that you need to have another occupational therapist to provide certain techniques, to use certain equipment, to use certain evaluations, or to write a report. Sometimes the report that the OT will write is what's necessary. The next story that I'll share is just one of many, many cases that I've worked with. In this situation, it was a child. I've worked with people throughout their entire life cycle. This particular client of mine was a child. He was under 6 years old, and he had a certain disability. And unfortunately, he was not referred to occupational therapy at all. This child was born with a certain disability and really should have been referred to occupational therapy right from birth, but he wasn't. How did the child come to me, you could ask? Well, since he wasn't referred, there was a certain stage that I'd moved country and I was starting to set up a private practice, dabbling in setting up a private practice in the place that I'd gone to. And I was having a conversation with somebody that I met who asked me, what did I do? What did I do for income? And when I explained that I was an occupational therapist and I was starting to work privately, she asked me to explain a little bit about occupational therapy, and I did, and she still didn't understand. And she said, but what kinds of clients are you going to work with? So I gave one or two explanations of situations that I'd worked with in the past where I'd had some fairly good results. And she said, you know what? I know somebody who has a child that could be that sounds like maybe you could help them. Their child is disabled and has never received the intervention they need, and the parents didn't know what to do, how to handle the child. So the child was suffering, the family was suffering. Those people who came into contact with the family got to hear of the suffering happening, but nobody knew that the profession that could assist this little child was occupational therapy. He wasn't referred by the doctor. He wasn't referred by a teacher. In fact, there wasn't even a teacher involved at that stage, although the child did reach a stage that he was ready to be able to go to school. But that referral didn't happen. And so eventually I started working with the child, and after a number of months of doing so, I wrote a detailed report and I sent it to the doctor, requesting now at this stage that I obtain the appropriate referral that I really should have received before, and I had no response. The pediatrician involved actually was quite a well-known pediatrician, well-respected, very knowledgeable, quite a leader in the area of pediatrics. And yet, when I finally booked an appointment and I went and sat with him and I went over some of the details of the occupational therapy report, I asked, I'm curious, why is it that this child didn't receive occupational therapy? And he said, you know what? I had no idea that occupational therapy could do what you've explained. And I had no idea that occupational therapy could be able to obtain the outcomes that you've received. So I'm very happy that you've explained it all to me, and I'll give you that referral that you're needing. And that was the reason why that poor child did not receive occupational therapy a number of years earlier. The parents said to me in one of the occasions that we sat talking about the progress taking place, they said, no child should have to wait the length of time that we did for an occupational therapy intervention to begin, just because the doctor didn't know that occupational therapy could provide the results that it could and the intervention that it did and obtain the outcome that it did. And so the parents were one of a number of parents who requested that I write the book. And now I say to you, the book is there right behind me, and it'll be coming up as well on the screen. And I say to you, please help to make a change that's needed in the world. And the change is for the profession of occupational therapy to become well understood, well appreciated, well respected, that anybody who's in need of occupational therapy can receive it timeously. Word document doesn't like it when I use the word timeously, but that means to receive the services of occupational therapy right up front at the time that the person is needing the service, and not have to wait months and years and perhaps never even receive the intervention that's possible that could help them and benefit the person in their life, just because those who are in the position to write the referral don't know about the profession. So help me to spread the word. This book is not so expensive for the amount of information that's in the book. It's, I've said it around $20-something. I forget, because there's a slight difference between the paperback version and the hardcover version, which just recently came out. Amazon from time to time puts the price up. So if it's over $30, then I don't know, perhaps send me an email and I'll ask Amazon to put it back to the price that I set it at. Or comment in the comments below and maybe I'll start being able to do some giveaways. I've had many thoughts of doing some giveaways on this channel, but there's not enough interaction. So how about you help me out with that as well? You can subscribe to this channel. You could click the like button. You can leave a comment in the comments below and let me know what kinds of topics would you like to hear about, or what is your knowledge about occupational therapy. If you know the profession already, perhaps you are an occupational therapist. There's one reason as to why you might benefit from reading the book as well. If you're considering some kind of a career change at all, perhaps you're considering moving to a different area of practice, perhaps you want to use OT in a different manner, and you're not quite sure which direction to go, this book might give you a couple of ideas. And the other reason is that perhaps you could help to spread the word, recommend it to doctors that you know, to people considering studying the profession. Perhaps you have a student and you'd like the student to learn a little bit more about the profession. Those are all good reasons, and that's the reason why I'd like you to get yourself a copy. The book is available on Amazon, on all the marketplaces. It's also in a couple of other online bookstores like Book Depository. So if free shipping is an issue for you, then Book Depository makes that a possibility. Of course, I don't really get very much royalties when it comes through Book Depository, but at least it'll be another person reading the book. So go ahead and purchase your book from there. And if you're interested in knowing what the other books are that I'd recommend and I'd like you to read, if you're a reader and you enjoy working on yourself or getting to know information that will help you to progress in life in this world, then let me know and I'll share a couple of other book-related topics in a different video. That's Shoshana Shea coming to you from Yerushalayim, from Jerusalem. A really rainy, cold day today, and that brings blessing also, doesn't it? With that, I wish you a very blessed day, and I look forward to seeing you in another video.